Let's take a step back in time, all the way to 1920. Picture yourself in an era full of untold stories, moments so rare they were never captured on film, but are forever etched into the fabric of history. These stories, big and small, shape the world we live in today. Imagine for a moment rural Russia in 1920. A group of peasants, many of whom have never seen electric light, gather around in awe as the first flicker of electricity lights up their homes. It's a stunning sight, one that marks the dawn of a new era. This single moment changes their world in ways they could never have imagined. Now let's travel to the picturesque region of Brittany, France, where women, with hands as skilled as any artist, weave delicate lace by hand. Each intricate design, passed down through generations, tells the story of a culture rich in tradition, a true testament to the artistry of the past. In Paris, 1920, we find a young Ho Chi Minh standing before the French Communist Party. His impassioned speech isn't just words. It's the start of a journey that will fuel a lifelong battle for independence, for equality, and for freedom. Meanwhile, in Moscow, Lenin stands tall before a crowd, delivering a speech that will become a defining moment in history. His words set the revolutionary fire ablaze, pushing millions to rally behind the Bolshevik cause. But 1920 wasn't all about progress. The shadow of the Spanish flu still looms over the world. On a train, passengers wear masks, a stark reminder of the devastating global pandemic that claimed millions of lives. And then there's the British Mark IV female tank in 1917, a mighty war machine on the front lines of World War I. This colorized footage brings to life the sheer force of innovation, a symbol of the industrial age's contribution to war. Back in London, 1920, a beggar meets King George V in an unexpected encounter. The contrast between royal privilege and the harsh realities of the poor creates a powerful image of a society rapidly changing, caught between tradition and modernity. The year is 1968, and a soldier wades through the murky waters of the Mekong Delta. The image speaks volumes about the struggles of the Vietnam War, decades after the seeds of conflict were sown. In the bustling heart of Wall Street, 1920, a massive bombing devastates the financial center of New York. The wreckage left in its wake tells the story of political unrest and the violence of an era caught in turmoil. 1920 also marks a momentous year for a young Mao Zedong, standing alongside his father, Mao Yichang. Little do they know, their futures will shape the course of history, as Mao Zedong rises to become one of the most powerful figures in modern history. In Westminster Abbey, a solemn procession in 1920 sees the coffin of the unknown warrior placed at the heart of British history, a poignant symbol of all the unnamed soldiers lost during World War I. Fast forward to 1945, when Jewish prisoners are freed from the Bergen-Belsen concentration camp. The haunting image of survivors stepping into freedom reminds us of the horrors of the Holocaust and the resilience of the human spirit. On a sunny beach in France, a young woman dressed in the elegant fashion of the 1920s takes a leisurely stroll. It's the perfect snapshot of an era where style meets the sea and the world is poised on the brink of a cultural revolution. In New York, innovation takes a bold new form in the 1920s, the vertical parking lot, a glimpse into the future, reshaping the city's skyline and its way of life. Meanwhile, the HMS Hermes returns home in 1982 after the Falklands War, a powerful symbol of the conflict's end and the bravery of those who served. Back in 1920, the airwaves are forever changed by the first-ever radio broadcast of music. The birth of radio revolutionizes how we hear sound, bringing music to homes across the world in ways we've never imagined before. 1920 also marks the beginning of Prohibition in the United States, a time when alcohol was banned, but that didn't stop underground speakeasies from thriving. This marks the start of a new fight for personal freedoms and rights. The creation of the League of Nations in 1920 also offers a glimmer of hope, a dream of global peace and stability born out of the ashes of World War I. It's a powerful attempt to bring nations together and prevent future conflict. In medicine, 1920 brings a revolutionary breakthrough, the first successful insulin treatment for diabetes. a life-changing moment for millions who had previously struggled with the disease. And in the United States, 1920 marks a monumental victory for women, the right to vote. It's a powerful moment in the ongoing fight for gender equality, and it empowers women across the country to have their voices heard like never before. In Harlem, New York, the Harlem Renaissance explodes onto the scene, bringing African-American artists, musicians, and writers into the cultural spotlight. The 1920s would forever change the course of American culture. The Ottoman Empire collapses in 1920, marking the end of centuries of rule. A new chapter in the Middle East begins, reshaping global politics for generations to come. The Treaty of Versailles is signed in 1919 and 1920, officially ending World War I. It redraws the map of Europe and sets the stage for future global conflicts. The first commercial air travel in the United States begins in 1920, changing the way we think about transportation and opening up new possibilities for connecting the world. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union's secret police rise to power, casting a long shadow over the years to come, defining the repressive tactics of the Soviet regime. In the world of manufacturing, Henry Ford's assembly line revolutionizes production. Faster, cheaper, more efficient, this innovation brings modern consumer goods to the masses. In cinema, 1920 sees the creation of the first motion picture soundtrack, forever changing how we experience films and creating a new world for audiences everywhere. And in Egypt, archaeologists continue their search for King Tut's tomb, with the groundbreaking discovery made in 1922, a moment that would send shockwaves through the world and reveal the treasures of ancient Egypt. In Turkey, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk begins laying the foundation for the Turkish Republic in 1920, a bold new vision for a modern, secular nation. The first electric refrigerator is invented in 1920, forever changing the way we store food and revolutionizing daily life. The Russian Civil War ends in 1920, solidifying Bolshevik power and setting the stage for the rise of the Soviet Union. The American Civil Liberties Union is founded in 1920, a force to defend civil rights and freedoms in a time of tremendous change. And finally, jazz, born in the 1920s, brings a new rhythm to the world. The syncopated beats and improvisational sound capture the essence of the jazz age, forever shaping music and culture. These rare glimpses into history remind us that the world has been shaped by moments both captured and lost. We may not have seen everything, but the stories that remain are just as powerful. Which moment stood out to you the most? Let us know in the comments or share your own untold stories with us. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold histories. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, hit that like button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.